Vexthor had broken exactly 217 species over his 30-year career at the Galactic Survival Academy, and he wore that number like a badge of honor. The Kralliks, with their 4 hearts and regenerating limbs, broken. A silicon-based thresh who could literally eat rocks, broken. Even that one cocky Vortan who claimed his species once hunted star whales for sport. Oh, especially him. Broken. Crying and begging for his commune mother by day 3. So when Administrator Krillneck slithered into his office that morning, all 7 of her eye stalks twitching with what Vexthor had learned to recognize as either amusement or gas, he did not expect his day to get interesting. "We have a human enrolling in your advanced course," she said, her translator box rendering her clicking mandibles into flat, emotionless galactic standard. Vexthor did not even look up from his datapad. "A human. Wonderful. Should I prepare the beginner obstacles? Or should we just skip straight to the participation certificate? The human specifically requested your course, by name." That made him look up. His triple-jointed neck rotated a full 180 degrees, which he knew unsettled most species, but Krillnex had seen it enough times to be immune. "My course, the one with the 37% fatality waiver, that course, that very one." Vexthor's mandibles spread in what his species considered a smile but what most others considered a threat display. "Well then, I suppose I should review my notes on human physiology. Let me see, they are from that little garden world, Terra, where the most dangerous thing is probably what? A stiff breeze. Maybe a light drizzle?" Krillnex's eye stalks curled in a way that definitely meant amusement. "Perhaps you should read the updated data file on their planet before she arrives tomorrow." He waved a claw dismissively. "I am sure it will be fine." Kate Brennan stepped off the transport shuttle wearing standard-issue Academy fatigues, a duffel bag slung over one shoulder, and an expression that suggested she had just finished a particularly boring commute rather than a 3-week journey through hyperspace. Vexthor watched from the observation deck as she stretched, yawned, and then proceeded to crack her neck in a way that produced an audible pop even through the reinforced glass. Delightful. The creature was already falling apart and training had not even started. She was small, barely reaching the chest height of most species in the facility, with pale skin that looked like it would tear if you breathed on it too hard. Her hair, a reddish-brown color that reminded Vexthor of rust, was pulled back in what his cultural database informed him was called a ponytail. Practical, he supposed, for someone about to fail spectacularly. He descended to the landing bay, his talons clicking against the metal floor in a rhythm he had perfected to sound authoritative and vaguely menacing. "Kate Brennan," he announced, not bothering with pleasantries. "I am Instructor Vexthor. For the next 14 days, you will be subjected to conditions that simulate the most hostile environments in known space. You will face atmospheric toxins, extreme temperatures, crushing gravity, aggressive fauna and nutritional scarcity. 63% of participants complete the course. 37% require medical intervention, additional rehabilitation, or," he paused for dramatic effect, "body retrieval." Kate blinked at him. "Cool. Is there coffee here or should I have brought my own?" Vexthor's left eye twitched. "Coffee. You are concerned about coffee. I mean, yeah. It is 7 in the morning, station time, and I have not had any since the last jump gate. So unless you want me cranky during your whole dramatic speech thing, coffee would be great." The audacity. The absolute, breathtaking audacity. "There is a commissary on level 3, he managed, his vocal cords producing a sound his translator rendered as barely controlled patience. "You have 1 hour to settle into your quarters. Training begins at 0900 hours. Do not be late." Kate hitched her duffel higher on her shoulder. "Level 3, got it. Oh, quick question. Do you guys have anything that can handle Earth standard gravity in the gym?" The ship's equipment was way too light. She walked away before he could answer, leaving Vexthor staring after her with a growing sense that perhaps, just perhaps, he should have read that updated data file. The environmental acclimation chamber, or as Vexthor privately called it, the attitude adjuster, occupied the entire northern wing of the facility. It could simulate anything from the sulfur storms of Kroth 7 to the frozen methane wastes of Yield Primaris. Most species lasted approximately 14 minutes before their survival instincts overrode their pride. Vexthor set the temperature to -40 degrees Celsius and watched through the observation window as Kate entered, wearing nothing but her fatigues and standard-issue boots. "Beginning cold resistance protocol," he announced into the intercom, his voice echoing through the chamber. You will remain inside until your core temperature drops to dangerous levels or until you signal for extraction, whichever comes first. Kate looked around the chamber, which was already developing a thin coating of frost on every surface. She hugged herself and hopped from foot to foot. Okay, so this is pretty cold. Like Minnesota cold. Minnesota? Vexthor checked his translator, wondering if it was malfunctioning. State back on Earth. Gets cold in winter. Not this cold, but you know, in the ballpark. She kept moving, rubbing her arms. How long are we doing this? Until your body cannot compensate any longer. Right, so like an hour? 2. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in irritation. The average species lasts 11 minutes before requesting extraction. Huh. Neat. 23 minutes later, Kate was still walking laps around the chamber, breath misting in the air, complaining about how the cold was making her fingers stiff. Vexthor increased the temperature to -60. She swore, loudly, but kept moving. At 41 minutes, Krillneck slithered up beside him at the observation window, her eye stalks focusing on the human who was now doing what appeared to be jumping exercises. She is still going, Krillneck observed, her translator box somehow managing to convey surprise. I can see that, thank you. The Kralix champion lasted 9 minutes at this temperature before his secondary organs began shutting down. I am aware. They watched Kate do another lap. She had stopped complaining, and now seemed to be singing something under her breath, though the audio pickups could not quite make out the words. Perhaps humans have some sort of thermal regulation we are unaware of, Krillneck suggested. Or perhaps she is too stupid to realize she should be suffering. Vexthor cranked the temperature up to +70 degrees Celsius, flooding the chamber with humid oppressive heat that would have sent most species into immediate heat stroke. Kate stopped mid-stride, as the temperature swung wildly. She unzipped her fatigue jacket halfway and fanned herself. Oh, come on. Really? We are doing both extremes in one session? That seems inefficient. It is meant to test your adaptability to rapid environmental shifts. Vexthor snapped through the intercom. Well, it is testing my patience, I can tell you that much. She tied her jacket around her waist and sat down cross-legged on the floor, which was now hot enough to cook food on. Are we almost done? Because I am getting hungry. Vexthor stared at his control panel. According to the biometric sensors attached to Kate's uniform, her core temperature had fluctuated by less than 2 degrees throughout the entire ordeal. Her heart rate was elevated, but only to levels consistent with mild exercise. This is impossible, he muttered. Nothing is impossible with humans, Krillneck said, her eye stalks somehow managing to convey a smug expression. That is what makes them terrifying. Vexthor terminated the test and watched Kate stand up, stretch and head for the exit like she had just finished a casual stroll through a park, whatever that was. The atmospheric hazard chamber was Vexthor's personal favorite, mostly because it had never, not once in 15 years, failed to make even the most arrogant trainee reconsider their life choices. The cocktail of chlorine gas, sulfur dioxide and trace amounts of hydrogen cyanide could drop a Kelvin battleox in under 30 seconds. He had Kate suit up in a standard breather mask, the kind that filtered out the worst of the toxins, but still allowed enough through to trigger the body's natural panic response. Educational suffering, he called it. You will remain in the chamber for as long as you can tolerate, he explained, checking the seal on her mask with perhaps a bit more force than necessary. The gases inside are lethal in high concentrations. The mask will keep you alive, but you will experience discomfort. Significant discomfort. Got it. Poison air, do not die. Tap out when it sucks too much. Kate gave him a thumbs up, which his database told him was a gesture of approval, though it looked more like a threat display to his eyes. He sealed her inside and began the gas flow. 30 seconds in, Kate's vitals were normal. 1 minute, still normal. 2 minutes. She was examining the walls of the chamber like she was considering redecorating. At 3 minutes she reached up and pulled off her mask. No. No. What are you doing? Vexthor slammed his claws against the intercom button. Put the mask back on immediately. Kate waved vaguely in the direction of the observation window, the mask dangling from her hand. This thing has a leak or something. It smells weird. That is the poison, you fool. The poison smells weird because it is poison. No, I mean, the mask smells weird, like old rubber in someone's lunch. The air in here just smells like I do not know, a pool, and maybe eggs? She sniffed experimentally. Definitely eggs. Vexthor looked at his instruments, then back at Kate. then at his instruments again. The atmospheric composition was reading as lethally toxic. The chamber was functioning perfectly. Kate Brennan was just standing there, breathing in enough poison to kill a small settlement, and comparing it to recreational water facilities and breakfast foods. Put the mask on. Fine. Fine. Geez. She fitted it back over her face, though not before taking one more deep breath of air that should have dissolved her lungs. At the 5-minute mark, alarms started blaring. Not from Kate's biometrics, those were still frustratingly normal, but from the chamber itself. A crack had formed in the ventilation seal, and trace amounts of the gas mixture were leaking into the observation corridor. Evacuate! Evacuate now! Krillnex's voice screeched over the facility-wide intercom as emergency doors slammed shut throughout the building. Vexthor stumbled backward, his respiratory system already burning from the minimal exposure. Through the observation window, he could see Kate looking around in confusion as hazard lights strobed red. Is something wrong? Her voice crackled through the intercom. Did I break it? He managed to hit the emergency purge, flooding the chamber with clean air before sealing off the entire wing. By the time the facility's medical team arrived, Vexthor was wheezing into an oxygen supply while Kate stood in the decontamination shower looking mildly annoyed. I did not even finish the test, she complained as a medic scanned her vitals. The medic, a Thessian with excellent pattern recognition skills, looked at the scanner, then at Kate, then at the scanner again. Her lungs are completely clear, not even minor inflammation. There is no reading for toxin absorption at all. Vexthor, still gulping oxygen, pulled up his training manual on his datapad and began searching frantically for the section on human physiology. The file was 1,700 pages long and had been last updated 3 days ago. The first line of the summary made his blood run cold. Warning: review full documentation before engaging with Terran species. The gravitational stress chamber had been installed at great expense after a delegation from the High Gravity Coalition complained that Academy training was too soft, too accommodating for what they called puddle worlders. It could simulate up to 8 times standard galactic gravity, which was approximately twice what most species evolved under. Vexthor had decided to run this session with multiple trainees. Perhaps seeing other more sensible species struggle would give the humans some perspective. He had selected 2 Krevelax, whose homeworld boasted 1.8 standard gravity, and 1 Thorian, a species literally made of living stone. Kate arrived, wearing the same fatigues as yesterday, which Vexthor noted still had not been cleaned. The other trainees wore specialized compression suits designed to prevent organ rupture. "Do you not want a support harness?" he asked Kate, gesturing to the equipment rack. "Nah, I am good. How high are we going?" "We will begin at 2 times standard gravity and increase incrementally." "Cool, cool. So like what, 20 meters per second squared?" "A bit more." Vexthor stared at her. "You know the mathematical conversion? I mean, I took physics in high school. It was not that hard." She stretched her arms over her head, joints popping again in that disturbing way. "Can we get started? I want to hit the gym after this." He sealed them all in and engaged the field. At 2 times gravity, the Krevelax grunted, but maintained their stance. The Thorian seemed unbothered, which made sense given that his species evolved in cave systems where they regularly experienced gravitational anomalies. Kate dropped into a squat, stood back up, and nodded. "Yeah, okay. This is noticeable." At 3 times gravity, one of the Krevelax went down on one knee, his compression suit whining as it tried to compensate. Kate was doing lunges. "Are you exercising?" Vexthor demanded through the intercom. "Well, I am already here. Might as well make use of it, right? This is great for leg day." At 4 times gravity, the second Krevelax tapped out, crawling toward the exit as his internal organs began compressing dangerously. The Thorian was now visibly straining, his stone flesh creaking audibly. Kate had moved on to what his database informed him were called push-ups. 1, 2, 3, 4, she counted, her voice slightly strained but not panicked. "This is actually harder than I thought it would be. Good workout." At 5 times gravity, the Thorian signaled defeat, his body literally cracking under the pressure. Medical teams rushed in to extract him, moving carefully under the crushing weight. Kate was still going. 17, 18, 19, 20. "Okay, yeah, I am feeling this one." Vexthor increased it to 6 times standard gravity. The observation window creaked ominously. Equipment not rated for this level of stress began groaning. Kate rolled onto her back and started doing what appeared to be abdominal exercises. Your species should not be able to function under these conditions, Vexthor said, no longer bothering to hide the bewilderment in his voice. Your bone density, your muscle structure, your cardiovascular system, none of it should allow for this. Gravity on Earth is about 9.8 meters per second squared. Kate grunted out between crunches. So, this is what? Like 6 times that. It is rough, but not impossible. How high can this thing go? 8 times standard gravity is the maximum. Let us do it. He should have said no. He should have ended the test right there. Instead, Vexthor cranked the field to maximum and watched as reality continued its personal assault on everything he thought he knew about biology. Kate stopped exercising. She lay flat on her back, breathing hard, sweat soaking through her uniform. Okay, she panted. Okay, this is actually really hard. I think maybe 5 more minutes and I will be done. She lasted 12 minutes before finally tapping out. The equipment lasted 8 before it started sparking and smoking, forcing an emergency shutdown. As maintenance crews swarmed the chamber, Vexthor sat at his observation station and finally began reading that 1,700-page file on humans. The first section was titled Deathworld Adaptations and Why You Should Be Concerned. He was concerned. The Academy Biodome was designed as a recreational space where trainees could decompress between sessions, featuring carefully cultivated plant life from low-risk worlds and a few designated safe zones for dining. There were also several restricted areas, clearly marked with hazard warnings in 47 languages, where more aggressive or toxic flora were kept for research purposes. Vexthor was in his office, 3 hours deep into the human data file and experiencing what he was relatively certain was an existential crisis, when the alarm started, not the standard alert chimes, the full evacuation sirens. He bolted from his chair, nearly tripping over his own tail, and brought up the security feeds on his wall display. The Biodome cameras showed personnel fleeing in every direction while automated warnings blared about a Class 7 biological hazard breach. Then he saw her. Kate Brennan was sitting cross-legged on the ground in Section 7 Delta, the area specifically cordoned off because it housed Celthian thorns, a plant species whose mere proximity caused respiratory failure in most oxygen breathers. She had a container open in her lap and was eating something while apparently reading a book on her datapad. No, Vexthor whispered. No, 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 you absolute fool. He sprinted toward the Biodome, his translator box bouncing against his chest and producing garbled static. By the time he arrived, a full emergency response team had assembled outside the section, all wearing hazmat suits and arguing about extraction protocols. Krillnex was there too, all 7 eye stalks pressed against the transparent barrier. She has been in there for 11 minutes. These Celthian thorns release spores every 7 minutes when they detect body heat. She should be dead. Why is she not dead? One of the hazmat team members wailed. Why is nothing ever simple with humans? Vexthor grabbed a spare comm unit and patched into the section's intercom. Kate Brennan, can you hear me? Kate looked up from her datapad, spotted the crowd of emergency personnel, and waved. She tapped her ear and pointed to the comm panel on the nearby wall. Oh, right, hold on. Her voice crackled through after she activated it. What is up? Is something wrong? Is something? What is? You are sitting in a Class 7 hazard zone. I am sitting in the garden area. It is nice here. Smells like rosemary and something else I cannot quite place. That something else is a neurotoxin. Vexthor's voice climbed several octaves. You are breathing in spores that cause immediate paralysis and respiratory collapse. Kate sniffed the air experimentally. Huh. Maybe that is why I have a tiny headache. I thought it was just low blood sugar. Evacuate immediately. Can I finish my lunch first? I am almost done. Vexthor looked at Krillnex. Krillnex looked at Vexthor. One of the hazmat team members sat down heavily on the ground and put his helmet in his hands. What are you eating? Vexthor asked, a sense of morbid curiosity overtaking his panic. Kate held up the container to the camera. Just some stuff I brought from the commissary. They have a surprisingly good selection. Got some of that Krathian spice blend, some fermented Velkesh root, those little thorian salt crystals, and I found these amazing preserved Zethian blood fruits in the back of the cooler. Been mixing it all with rice. Want some? The hazmat team leader made a sound like a dying engine. That is not food. That is a list of controlled substances. The Krathian spice is a banned incendiary agent. Velkesh root is literally poisonous. Thorian salt crystals are used in industrial applications because they corrode organic tissue. And Sathian blood fruit, actual Sathian blood fruit, is classified as a chemical weapon by the Galactic Council. Really? Kate looked at her lunch with renewed interest. It just tastes like really intense hot sauce. I mean, it is pretty spicy, but nothing worse than those ghost peppers my brother grew in his garden. Now those things were brutal. Ghost peppers, Vexthor repeated flatly. Yeah, they are like, I do not know, 1,000,000 Scoville units. Made my eyes water something fierce. These blood fruits are maybe half that. Honestly kind of disappointing. I was hoping for more kick. Krillnex's eye stalks had all focused into a single point of horrified fascination. She is comparing military-grade chemical weapons to her agricultural products and finding them lacking. I want off this assignment, one of the hazmat team members announced. I want a transfer to the nice, safe, predictable Voidwalker containment facility, where the worst thing that can happen is getting shunted into an alternate dimension. This is too much. Kate finished her lunch, packed up her container, and stood. She brushed off her pants and walked toward the exit, stepping carefully around the Zelfian thorns, which seemed to lean away from her as she passed. Sorry for the confusion, she said as she emerged from the section, pulling off her jacket to shake off some pollen. I did not realize this area was restricted. The sign was in a language I have not learned yet. The sign was in Galactic Standard, which was literally the first language taught to all trainees. Vexthor did not have the energy to point this out. He returned to his office and continued reading the human data file, now skipping directly to the section titled Common Human Foods and Why They Horrify Everyone Else. It was 63 pages long. The Predator Gauntlet was exactly what it sounded like, and Vexthor had never felt even slightly bad about it. Trainees were released into a controlled environment with 3 bioengineered hunting beasts called Ravagers, creatures specifically designed to test combat reflexes, threat assessment, and survival instincts. They had retractable claws, reinforced exoskeletons, and enough predatory drive to make a Kelverin warhound look like a lap pet. Standard protocol involved giving trainees a plasma stunner and 20 minutes to evade or incapacitate the creatures. Most lasted 7 minutes before requesting emergency extraction. A few managed to stun one Ravager. Nobody had ever dealt with all 3. Kate showed up wearing the same unwashed fatigues, which Vexthor was now convinced were developing their own ecosystem. So I just have to survive, right? She asked, checking the charge on her stunner. Survive, evade, or neutralize the threats. The Ravagers are trained to hunt but not to kill. They will pursue you relentlessly. But the scenario ends when you signal defeat or when time expires. Vexthor gestured to the arena entrance. Any questions? Are they like dog-sized or bear-sized? I do not know what those reference points mean. Okay, follow-up question. Can I pet them if I stun them first? Absolutely not. They are dangerous predators, not, what did you call it, lap pets? Kate shrugged and walked into the arena. Vexthor settled into the observation room where Krillnex was already waiting. A container of what she called refreshments but what looked like live insects suspended in gel. How long do you think she will last? Krillnex asked, offering him the container. Bold of you to assume she will fail, Vexthor muttered, waving away the food. At this point I expect her to somehow adopt one of them. He meant it as a joke. The Ravagers were released 60 seconds after Kate entered. They moved with liquid grace, their sensors locking onto her heat signature immediately. All 3 began their approach from different angles, a coordinated pack hunting strategy that had been refined over hundreds of simulations. Kate saw them coming and her response was to sigh heavily and put her hands on her hips. Oh, come on. Really? You guys look like someone mixed a lizard with a scorpion and gave it anger issues. The lead Ravager lunged. Kate sidestepped, letting it sail past her, and bopped it on the head with her stunner without firing it. Bad. No. We do not jump at people. The creature skidded to a halt, shook its head, and turned around, clearly confused about why its prey was scolding it instead of running. The second Ravager tried a different approach, circling around behind her. Kate spun and pointed the stunner at it. I can see you. Yes, I can. Do not even think about it. The Ravager froze mid-stalk. This is not how predator-prey dynamics work, Vexthor said, leaning closer to the screen. She is supposed to be terrified. Why is she not terrified? Maybe she does not understand the danger, Krillnex offered. On screen, Kate had sat down cross-legged on the ground. All three Ravagers were now circling her cautiously, their hunting algorithms clearly malfunctioning in the face of prey that refused to act like prey. "All right, listen up," Kate said, addressing the creatures like they were misbehaving students. "I have had a really weird week. Temperature extremes, poison air, high gravity, and everyone keeps panicking about my lunch. I am tired, I am sore, and I have not had decent coffee in 4 days. So here is what we are going to do. You three are going to calm down. I am going to sit here for the next," she checked a non-existent watch on her wrist, 18 minutes, "and we are all going to have a nice, quiet time." "Okay." One of the Ravagers made a chittering sound and sat down. Then the second one sat. Then the third one walked over and laid down with its head near Kate's leg. "Good boys, or girls, or whatever you are. I do not actually know how your species works." She reached out slowly and scratched behind what might have been the creature's ear. It made a rumbling sound that the audio pickups rendered as something between a purr and a growl. Vexthor stood up, walked to the door, opened it, walked back in, and sat down again. The scene had not changed. Kate Brennan was sitting in a combat arena, petting a bioengineered killing machine while the other two waited their turn. "I am going to need so much therapy after this assignment," he announced. "Get in line," Krillnex replied, her eye stalks drooping in defeat. "I have been keeping a list of therapists since day 2. Vexthor had not slept in 36 hours. His office looked like a disaster zone, data pads scattered across every surface, the human file displayed on multiple screens simultaneously, and a half-eaten meal congealing in the corner that he did not remember ordering. "She passed the void exposure test," he said to no one in particular, his voice hoarse. 15 minutes in hard vacuum with only an emergency breather. 15 minutes. The record was 4 minutes before permanent brain damage set in. She complained that the breather tasted stale. Krillnex had given up pretending to work and was now openly watching him spiral. "Perhaps you should take a break." "A break?" "Yes. A break from questioning everything I know about biology, physics, and the fundamental nature of survival itself." He pulled up another file. "Do you know what she did during the radiation exposure test?" "She got a sunburn." "A sunburn. Not radiation poisoning, not cellular degradation, not even mild nausea. Just a slightly pink complexion that she said reminded her of beach season. To be fair, you did only run that test at 5 rems per hour. 5 rems per hour would hospitalize most species. I had to stop at 20 total because she said she was getting bored and wanted to know if we had any actual challenges planned." The door to his office opened without warning. Administrator Krillnex's superior, Director Thexnalon, entered along with 2 other Academy board members. They did not look happy. "Instructor Vexthor, we need to discuss trainee Brennan's performance." Vexthor laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Her performance, right. Should we discuss how she has achieved perfect scores on every single test, or how she keeps asking if we have anything harder? Or perhaps how the Ravagers now follow her around the Biodome like imprinted hatchlings?" Thexnalon's carapace plates shifted in discomfort. "We have reviewed the incident reports, all 73 of them, in 4 days. 74 now. She went for a swim in the chemical decontamination pool this morning because she thought it was a regular pool and complained the chlorine levels were low." One of the board members, a crystalline shardling, chimed softly. "Director, perhaps we should have mentioned to the instructor that Earth has been reclassified." "Reclassified as what?" Vexthor demanded. Thexnalon sighed, a sound like grinding metal. "Class 12 Deathworld. The rating was updated 8 months ago after a full planetary survey. Earth has more active geological instability, atmospheric chaos, biological diversity, and environmental extremes than any world that has produced sapient life. The fact that humans evolved there at all violates several established models of evolutionary biology." Vexthor stared at him. "Class 12. The highest rating possible is Class 12, correct? And you sent her to my course, which is designed for species from Class 3 to Class 7 worlds. We wanted to see what would happen." "What would happen?" Vexthor repeated slowly. "You wanted to see what would happen." Krillnex made a sound that her translator rendered as barely suppressed laughter. Vexthor put his head down on his desk and did not move for a full minute. The graduation ceremony was held in the Academy's main hall, a space designed to accommodate the wildly different physiologies of successful trainees. Vexthor stood at the podium, his prepared speech abandoned somewhere around day 6 when Kate had accidentally discovered that the emergency rations were apparently edible to humans, despite containing trace amounts of arsenic. Kate stood front and center, cleaned up in her formal uniform, looking almost disappointingly normal. The Ravagers sat in the front row because they had refused to return to their kennels and Kate had promised to visit them before she left. Kate Brennan, Vexthor began, his voice carefully controlled, has achieved a perfect score in every category. Her time in the environmental chamber, the atmospheric hazard test, the gravity simulation, the predator gauntlet, and 14 other scenarios I will not list because I am very tired. He paused. She has set new records that will likely never be broken, mostly because we are updating all of our equipment ratings, and I personally will be recommending humans receive their own separate training protocols. Polite chittering, clicking, and assorted approval sounds rippled through the assembled audience. Kate, do you have anything you would like to say? She stepped up to the microphone, looking genuinely pleased. Yeah, actually, I just want to say thanks for pushing me. This was way harder than basic training back on Earth, and I really felt challenged. Especially that last day with the corrosive fog and the zero visibility maze. That was great. I am definitely going to tell my friends to apply. Vexthor's eye twitched. Please do not. Oh, and Instructor Vexthor, I know I gave you a hard time, but you are a really good teacher. Tough but fair. I learned a lot. You learned a lot, he repeated, his voice hollow. You taught me that everything I believed about survivability was wrong and that humans are apparently indestructible nightmares from a hell planet, but yes, you learned a lot. Kate grinned and accepted her certification pad from Director Thex Nalan, who handed it over like it might explode. Later, after the ceremony ended and the other trainees had scattered, Vexthor found Krillnex in the observation room. I am putting in for a transfer, he announced. To where? Anywhere. Basic orientation courses. Beginner swimming instruction. Theoretical physics lectures where I never have to physically interact with another species again. He pulled up a request form on his datapad. 217 species broken over 30 years, and one human completely broke me instead. Krillnex's eye stalks curled in amusement. You could always request a position at the new facility they are opening. What facility? The one on Earth. They want to train instructors how to handle humans by letting them experience a Class 12 Deathworld firsthand. I hear they are looking for volunteers. Vexthor stared at her in horror. That is not training. That is a death sentence. Probably, Krillnex agreed cheerfully. But imagine the bragging rights if you survived. He closed his datapad and walked away without another word, the sound of her laughter following him down the corridor. Somewhere in the Biodome, Kate was teaching the Ravagers how to play fetch.